Alrighty, hello, everyone. I am very, very happy to be here with you all today. And hello, everyone. I am very, very happy to be here with you all today. And hello, everyone.
Moldy, you gotta turn off one of the sources because you're echoing.
Sorry.
So
Mute
just
the
have
video,
one
dear.
of your devices playing audio.
Yeah. Yeah, if you could put in some headphones, that'd be great. Okay. Alrighty. So, okay. Is everything still going? Okay, cool. No roboting, that's good. Sweet. So, what we're going to be doing today is just a simple writer showcase stream. Everybody here will get an opportunity to read a section of their work and be able to get feedback. I can accommodate a place to advertise their content. Please totally look at their stuff. I will be putting links to their work in the description below. Please check it out. I am very happy to have all of these people on board. So, we're going to be going in this order. So we're going to be starting with Wolvie first. And then we will be going with Neph Champion.
Hey guys.
Then Semantic Dragon. And then Becoming Better. /Brent Discord. And then I'll go last. Just to make sure that everybody gets the opportunity to put out their stuff. Alrighty. So, oh no, it's okay. Occupation Army, it's fine. I totally understand. I was just curious. So, Wolvie, are you ready to go?
I am ready.
Alrighty. The floor is yours.
All right, so I thought I would start writing a short story. So I guess I'll get into it. A young trainer.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got into writing, a little bit about the piece that you're writing, and why you like it so much.
Okay, so I've always been into reading and the worlds that are created by stories. And then my best friend has been pushing me to write and, just go for it, which is Neph. So this is me going for it. And then I actually wrote it and I was pretty inspired. I think Dunn was like, oh, maybe I should have put a day instead of a week. And then I ended up rewriting it like 4 times and being pretty happy with it in the end. But it's still kind of simple, but I'm happy I reached the 400 goal.
Nice. That's fantastic.
So, good to go ahead and start to read?
Go for it. Yes.
Alright. So one thing to help also is I put my avatar as like this is the character in the story for a video aid. So this is the character you're looking at in the story. A young trainer with long brown hair meanders through a maze of a forest. Within the view of her camera, she took a few shots of some butterfree, glistening in the sun that shone through the thick treetop above. At her side was a large, scruffy stoutland and a tiny aquamarine-colored Bulbasaur. They stopped next to a tree for a few snacks before heading on their way. Further along, the young trainer took a shot of a few fuzzy yellow Pikachu bolting across the ground, and a nest of Beedrill buzzing along in the darkened sky. She could hear the professor's enthusiastic voice now. Wow, there are multiple Pokemon in the picture. Wolvie pondered on why she had returned to the region of Kanto. She gazed upon the badges from the far-away region of Galar, deciding she had missed her hometown. When she visited Professor Oak before, he gave her some advice and a brand new Bulbasaur for the journey. The small creature looked up at her with shining eyes, ready for what might be ahead. Leaving the forest, she entered the small town of Pewter, which had a few small houses and a museum. She visited her old friend Brock inside his gym, which was a rounded, large building in contrast to the others. Inside there were humongous rocks and a vast dry stage. Would you care for another battle, for old time's sake? Brock greeted her as she entered. He also appeared to be a young trainer. Sure, she replied. It would be nice to show him how her skills had grown. Brock threw out his Pokeball, revealing a towering chain of boulders. It was an onyx. The Wolvie was not worried. She sent out what appeared to be a horrendous little creature that rabunciously scampered around the arena. She liked to call her precious Mariani Red, who glowed with a radiance that was different from the usual blue sea creatures you could find along the shores. She set the stage with toxic spikes to whittle down the giant creature. His onyx lunged at the small creature. However, her Red avoided the attacks thanks to its training and speed. Red attacked with a powerful stream of water, knocking out the weakened onyx. That's quite the strategy you've learned, Brock said. Thank you, Wolvie replied. I've learned power alone isn't enough to win you a battle. Story is done.
Oh, nice.
Very well done, Wilby. I'm very proud of you.
Thank you.
Nice. Nice. I like the descriptiveness of it. I think that was a very, very descriptive little piece. Definitely conveyed a lot of what you were. I think it conveyed a lot of what you were trying to do in terms of just kind of just having like a short little like short story adventure thing. I thought that was really good.
Yeah, it's very descriptive for 400 words. I'm amazed how descriptive that can be.
Thank you.
So I'm the grumpy one. It's hard for me to be positive, so I'll give you a couple critiques. So one of your descriptions is you specify the Bulbasaur as being aquamarine colored. You could just call it aquamarine because the calling it colored is redundant.
Okay.
As far as you said, Brock appeared to be a young trainer. You don't really need the word appeared there because he actually is a young trainer. So you would use appeared there if, for example, he looked like a young trainer, but actually wasn't.
If you guys would like to know, I went through a few horror stories where my boyfriend helped me. I went through stages of describing everything as frog-like and mouse-like and different stages of where it became better and better. I love
it's always good.
And becoming better, like your name.
Cool. Alrighty. So we got a good crowd right now. Neph, feel free to take it away.
Okay, you all know me. Let's see. Right. Okay. So I decided that I'm not going to read the entire chapter. I'm just going to read a single section of it. And it is a Sword Art Online fic. That's all I seem to be writing at the moment. But the most important thing about it is that I'm sorry. I thought I knew what I was going to say.
It's fine.
So, I've turned the main character into a changeling. And he's really selfish, not selfless, selfish. And I hope that the section I'm going to read will convey that. So this is from the first chapter called Returning to the World of Swords. November 6th, 2022. Sword Art Online, Aincrad. First floor, Town of Beginnings. Kirithal took a deep breath of the clean, clear air of the first floor of Aincrad. It's good to be home, he breathed, his smirk becoming a genuine smile. He felt lighter than air. How had some human known what the home of the Fae was like? That was something that he could ponder later. Should he
You're cutting out for me.
Should I start over?
Only one who can't hear her right now.
I could hear you fine.
I
Oh,
can
okay.
hear.
My bad.
Okay. That was something that he could ponder later. Should he explore the city first or look for changes? Or should he just head into the field and start leveling his character? In the end, his curiosity won out, and Kirithal turned to head farther into the city. The Town of Beginnings was beautiful. The streets were clean, though since this was a game, the streets couldn't be anything else but clean. How he longed to visit Springfall, which the Town of Beginnings had been modeled off of. The Fae were dying out, and Aincrad was dying with them. The Town of Beginnings was bright and cheerful, full of non-player characters who looked human walking around. Kirithal could feel his hidden wings vibrating in excitement as he started jogging through the streets, taking it slowly so that he could spot the changes made from the beta test. As it was early afternoon, the streets were brightly lit by sunlight, the light glinting off the windows set in walls made of brick that were likely several feet thick. The architecture reminded Kirithal of the pictures he'd seen of medieval castle towns in Europe that he'd stumbled on while doing research for other games that he'd played and for the homework assigned for school. He'd always found the aesthetic visually pleasing, but that only made sense since Kirithal shook the nostalgic thoughts out of his head as he came across a player who looked quite lost. What would he get out of offering to help this other player? What would he get for not helping them? Silently, Kirithal weighed his options. If he helped this person, then it would take longer to discover everything that had changed about the Town of Beginnings. It would also delay him in getting out into the fields to level up. He was about to continue on his way when two voices called out to him. "Hey, wait!" the male voice called. Excuse me," the female voice said nervously. Sighing to himself, Kirithal turned around to see that one of the players to get his attention was tall, with long, smooth auburn hair and the beginnings of a beard on his face. There was something in his eyes that gave Kirithal the impression of an at least half-blooded salamander. The other had bright blue eyes and hair to match. She looked to be Undine in origin, but Kirithal didn't get the feeling that she had any Fae blood from just looking at her. "And what do the two of you want?" Kirithal asked, weighing his options. This might come off as rude, but are you a beta tester?" the salamander asked. "And if I was?" Kirithal asked calculatingly, his eyes narrowing. The salamander sighed in relief. I was hoping to find one to give me a bit of a tutorial, he admitted. Kirithal turned his attention to the human that looked like an Undine. And you? He asked. I hope for much the same, she admitted softly. Kirithal's eyes narrowed even more as he thought about how to answer. And what, he started, gave you the impression that I might be a beta tester? He wanted to know, turning his attention back to the salamander for an answer. The way you moved, actually, the salamander replied. Your movement speaks of experience using the nerve gear, he explained, his voice hopeful. Kirithal nodded slowly. That would give him away. And, he said slowly, what do I get in return for taking the time out of my day to give you both a tutorial? He asked curiously. The salamander caught on quickly as he met Kirithal's eyes. I will owe you a single favor to be called in at any time. Kirithal turned his eyes to the human girl who was looking between himself and the salamander in open confusion. And you? What will you give me, should I agree to give you the same tutorial? The girl bit her lip, having realized that something significant had just occurred in front of her. She stopped herself. Kirithal placed a fingertip to her lips. Think about your next words very carefully, my dear, he cautioned her in a low voice. Nothing is free, and words are powerful. She stared up into his eyes, her blue eyes wide in realization. Then her eyes narrowed. I will cook one meal for you, she said finally, once he pulled his finger away from her mouth. I do realize that skills will work differently since this is a game, but I'm quite the cook. I just ask that you give me time to work on the skill first. In that case, Kirithal paused, smirking. Please tell me when you pick this skill up so that I can start looking for something to bring you. She nodded. I will do so, she agreed quietly. Kirithal looked from her to the salamander. They both wore some fairly cheap armor, but then what armor wasn't, since this was just the first floor? The salamander had a curved sword at his side, and the girl had an iron rapier. All right, then, he said. If you will both follow me into the fields, we will get started. Thanks, men. The name's Klein, the salamander Klein said. Kirithal nodded. Kirithal. The girl stayed silent as she trailed after them. And that's it.
Definitely some good character work in there, I'd say.
Thank you.
I feel like I have a very good impression of Mr. Kirito. And
I agree.
yeah, seems like he's very calculating, but he hides that. Is that a correct assumption?
Yes.
Alrighty.
All right, here's my grumpy critique. So, with regards to the opening sentence, use the preposition of twice. So, I would recommend, like, the second one, you can change it to within or from, or you could change the first of to something else. Let's see. And when you're describing the beard, I can't remember the character's name, but you're describing it as the beginning of a beard on his face. Unless you're going to describe his face, you don't need to just say that the beard is on his face, because we can assume that. So, but if the beard was like significant in some way, you and you wanted to personify it, like if the person had like an outrageous beard, you could say that it's on his face, or that it at that point, because now the beard is a significant thing and it's almost like a separate part of him.
Okay, I'll look into describing his face, or just taking that out then. Thank you.
No problem. I fully expect to be ripped to shreds when I read mine.
Let's see. Alrighty. We're moving along at a good clip, which isn't surprisingly enough, so we should be able to get everybody in, which is great. So next up is Semantic Dragon. So he his mic is not working, or he does not have a mic yet. So I am just going to be reading off his intro. So he wrote, I started writing because I enjoyed fantasy and Dungeons and Dragons and other stuff when I was other related stuff when I was 14. I found a chat room-based role-playing game online, which at the deep end of the spectrum turned into a first/third person based role-playing, and people got a little pedantic, but it was a place to learn to just write, and I've been at it ever since. So the book that he's going to be reading is actually on Wattpad. I'm going to post the link in the chat so that everybody can read it. And I will also put it in the description below if Semantic Dragon would you like that, Semantic Dragon? So without further ado, we will keep reading. Okay. Shael, a beautiful beast. Chapter 1. Collection. We arrived at the Elf Field Hollow just after midnight. To the crowd out of them gathered outside and got to work. The air was heavy with anxiety, and I could feel down in my bones, despite the clear sky and bright moon. But that was to be expected. A beast had invaded their home, and as beast catchers, it was our job to bring it out. Ideally, without violence. Eric, our wizened and gray-haired command, set it out to his first priority of assessment, while Di, the lanky and lean second command, set Matt and Lena to setting up the catch coach, in which case we had to bait or drag it out. As the pacifier, I would watch her loping about, her brown hair just long enough to ash about out as she swung her gaze about, just like the hawk or Archie bore a resemblance to. Brushing a stray ebony bang from my face, I step off and shrug back the old dappled green cloak as I join our diplomatic leader in his consultation with the Hollow's elder, though I seem to be late on their conversation. The old small elf merely nods as I walk up and leads the two of us inward, Di striding into our rear as we dip into the tunnels of their home. None of them dared to go near the stores that the beast had taken refuge in, from the noise of objects crashing into walls and fabrics being torn. It was little wonder why not. Eric and Di were the veterans of facing off against things in tight enclosures, and a field elf hollow was certainly a thing of cramped variety. They were smaller and slimmer, like children to a high elf statue, and they liked living in tight subterranean clusters with a few well-defended exits from their community lair. From what Eric noted of the once defended exit, the guards were hurt but not killed, a shock and a relief, considering that whatever it was had shattered the oak barrier. The people behind had shied away from a shriek, covering their ears in fright that it was a banshee, even though spectators would have been unable to enter. They were incarnations of hatred and winds, weeping across open plains. They did not smash into walls or hide in storm rooms. No, relax, friends. They passed you by. A banshee wants only to spite or kill, and dread vermin would have eaten you. This thing is intelligent, I said to them, waiting for them to look reassured. But no, they were just dumbfounded, as though I'm speaking dragon's tongue. It does not want to hurt you. We will see it out of here immediately. If a collective relieved Oh, is all they can muster? I guess that is my reward. Why do I even care? Let's get this over with. Eric, Di, where are we? Hard to say. Dark in here. Searching around. Scratching around. Making something? Di says in her standard lethargy. Tall and lean, the tunnels forced her to crouch, but she bore this with the same indifference as any obstacle, and provided her usual bland observation. She and Eric both projected that unflappable resolve that I often envied in my moments of uncertainty. Like what? Eric asked from a stooped position. He began leaning against the curling wall before the sound of breaking posts and snapping wood echoed from within. He made a few cusses before being startled back upright, but it made me feel a little better about my anxiety. That doesn't sound like making something. Maybe searching for something? Yikes. So, who goes first? Liana? He jested, throwing me a grin. What? Ruin her dress? I should go. Shouldn't be that hard, I said, confident in fingering the thin, enchanted rope at her hip. It was strong as steel despite the thin hempen fiber of its construction, but her logic was flawed. I'll go, I say, observing the deep claw marks that lined the earthen walls and stony floor. Whatever had come through had needed to use the walls to curb its speed, unable or unwilling to stop, and then burst through the storeroom floor. Dust was settling inside, but only the light barely fell beyond of the door frame. Anyway, highlighting a narrow strip of floor into the abyss. It's fine. Nobody has been hurt yet. It may not be violent. I'll go first. Try to cope up peacefully. That's what I'm here for. I hope that sounding confident will make me feel confident. It doesn't, but I pretend it does. You sure? I nod to Eric as I move past him. It would be better if I were wearing something thick, but I had what I had, and it wasn't my best dress anyway. Inside the darkness, the motion stills as I enter. There is something to my left, a lingering presence that sets a tingle out through my skin, prickling it like goose flesh down my spine and down my arms. I feel fear, but not only my own. As I catch a brief sight of a small glimmer, too distant a shadow, like the eyes of a cat, but bright blue. Hello? Can you speak? I say into the darkness before thinking. Oh, wait. Can you understand me? That's better, as long as it understands without eating me. Responds without eating me. A growl of a sort emanating from the seclusion was the only response. Trying to warn me off. It wasn't terribly aggressive at least, keeping to the shadows. Wounded perhaps? I am calm, it is calm, I am calm, it is calm. The mantra in my head is fixed, and I focus, projecting that emotion outward as I move forward, believing it, knowing it, even as the growl gets louder at my approach. I must be confident. So I square my shoulders and stride ahead. There's a feminine pitch to the growl, almost humanoid, like a child imitating a wolf, but it could be deceit. I don't have much of a choice either way. It hisses and scrabbles through the rubble it had created, apparently better able to see than I and smart enough to exploit that. The distinct sound of sniffing came from the darkness to my side. I steady myself with a deep breath, turning towards it, once again catching sight of the eyes in the shadow. The faint impression of a form, gold with a silver mane, Ain began to reveal itself as my eyes adjusted to the darkness of the room. Vaguely humanoid, but moving like a beast, and trying to obey the direct line of sight with the debris of shelves and boxes around the room. Wait, you don't have to be scared. I'm here to help, I say to it. And there is a pause in the movement. I am calm, and it is calm. It's hard to remember feeling the anxiety of the room, but I keep a hold of it, despite the pounding in my heart. The beast, whatever it is, would come at me, but not so long as I was certain. You are calm. It is with that last commanding effort the things seem to stop entirely. Hey. Help? It was a faint voice, weak and unused to shaping words. There was an unpleasant cough. Someone or something clearing its throat, and I winced at the texture of the sound. I crept closer, keeping at the edge of the darkness, but I can make out the faint outline of a face, like a child. I am calm. She is calm. It could be a deception, but the eyes seemed large and so very sad. Yes, to remove you from this place safely, to take you someplace where no one will be at risk. I squat down to get it more on eye level with her, hoping that it wasn't a small false face of some demonic elf eater. Is it okay if I use a light so I can see you? It did not react, so I start reaching into the pouch at my belt. The bright charm, a small blue crystal within a conclave of a polished steel disc, capable of fitting in the palm, didn't evoke anything when withdrawn either, so I set it down between us. I keep my mind on being calm and extending that to her as I speak the words to activate. Illuminate. She jumps at the sudden soft blue light, but now that I have a good view of her, my words fail me. Not a child, but small in frame, her avoidance of being seen before quickly justifies as I realize she is completely naked, even though that takes a moment to fully take in. Not sure exactly what I'm seeing at first. The golden body, partly hidden by a swath of silver hair, it seemed long enough to reach her feet, and mild amounts of dirt caked elsewhere. Stranger still were the places where her skin actually gleamed, shimmered like metal, and I saw that she emanated the light along a crest of scales, triangular and dragonian, plating her brow like a tiara. I stare for a moment as she paused the charm like a kitten before relaxing, sitting unabashed in her nakedness, but clearly uncertain of me and my light. Hello there, I say, smiling at her optimistically. I am Liana. Do you have a name? Anna. She points at me as she fumbles the sound across her tongue. I nod. Didn't sound like she spoke very often, but she was making an effort, so I do the same, staying quiet to see if she says anything more. Sadly, she does not, taking the time instead to take better stock of me. Liana. I point to myself, then her. Her head tips to the side, and she points at me, repeating my name again. And it seems to dawn on her when she points to herself. There was a period of preparation. She thought to herself, licked her lips, and then taking a brief breath, she finally spoke. Shael, she says, with some effort, as though her memory is fighting against her. If she has a name, she had a parent or guardian who'd spoken to her, by my estimation. But she doesn't seem to have had any interaction in quite a while. I can only wonder where she's been or how she's been living until she could speak more competently. Shael! That's a pretty name, I say softly, smiling, and she smiles back at me, timid and mimicking my expressions, but apparently pleased at the exchange. Looking at her, I feel half foolish for my nerves before, but the rest remains aware. Rest of me remains aware of the destruction she brought. She looks to the door at any sound from the hall, but she has otherwise calmed down, letting me get a better view of her. Not quite emaciated, but getting there. Dirty, but otherwise uninjured, and well developed physically. Where did you come from? Why are you here? What? Air? What? I? She hesitates, glancing at me while puzzling over the proper words. I am. It seems to frustrate her, the inability to communicate. If the way she crinkles her nose and furrows her eyebrows is any indication. Lost. Here. To. She was struggling, trying despite the absence of vocabulary, though I suspected she had more buried than unused it. Here to hide? Her face lights up when I say it, nodding enthusiastically at being understood. I can't help but giggle at the sight of it. Then she blushes a little, I think. The complexion of her skin hides it well. Only makes aches stopping harder. But I certainly don't want her to think I'm mocking. Hiding from whom? Is someone chasing you? Yes, chasing, she mumbled, her head dipping slightly as her eyes moved to the door. I want to ask for more, such as who and why, but I feel it unlikely she'll be able to tell me with any lucidity. A problem to approach at a later time, I decided, once she was no longer a threat to the others. But for now, I need to work on getting her elsewhere. To that end, I produce a chunk of jerky, offering the cured beef to her cautiously, not wishing to lose a finger to the snapping jaws. Are you hungry? I ask, waiting as she leaned in to sniff at it before snatching it with a hand to bring it close to her face. She sniffed it again, then licked it cautiously, then ate it in two powerful bites, swallowing it with barely a chew. Whoa, slow down, you might choke. She didn't, but I had moved too quickly. Without thinking, I'd reached out to help, and I saw the error of my actions immediately. The scales along her shoulders and forearms bristled like quills as she sees me coming and hisses. Calm? I am calm. She is calm. I'm not, but I make myself believe that I am. She seems to deflate, though Di and Eric have started coming closer because of the noise, and it roused her anxiety to hear them. You okay in there, Lay? Eric calls, as if having heard my thoughts. That's just my friend, I tell her, as she begins to shift to put me between her and the doorway. I take that as a good sign, as she seems to be accepting me as a source of security, or she might just be making sure that I can't surround her. I'm fine, Eric. Could you see about procuring us some blankets? Sure. I am not sure they under what for, but I return my attention to the girl, seeing as she could be volatile. Strange to look at her and find such ambivalence. Small, seemingly frail and vulnerable, yet all evidence surrounding her suggests a violent, destructive nature. She could be a changeling, I think. I want to take you out of here, but you need to promise to do as I say. This seems to frustrate her. Her mouth works, but she doesn't have words. At least, not the words she wants. Growing anxious, I have to guess, but I keep smiling at her, projecting the sense of calm I want to feel, but can't with the knowledge that she could burst through an open door, and I was far more fragile than even the thinnest piece of oak. You are afraid I'm lying, I ask. She nods, pleased to be understood, but skeptical by her expression. But if you don't, eventually the people chasing you will come, and I bet they aren't as nice as me. At this, she groans. She crawls forward, closer than she'd been thus far, thrusting her face into mine. Her eyes narrowed into slits, the bright blue barely visible as she began to sniff at me. She sniffs along my cheeks and neck, as far down as my bust, and I stay still, uncertain how retreat might look to her. I am calm. She is calm. That mantra is shaking, achy at best when I feel when she starts touching my dress, pawing at the fabric in a testing fashion. She was rather meticulous, investigating me from top to bottom as though I might be a meal or a trick, before settling down beside me, apparently satisfied with my trustworthiness. I wonder vaguely if she'd let me touch her back, but my timing for reaching toward her is poor. Lay, blankets, Di called, starting me, and Shail as my hand is hovering an inch from her hand, and she shifts away. Just another friend. Stay right here. I'll be back soon. Though it certainly had my heart pounding as well. Di waited beyond the door, looking rather annoyed, with a set of brightly colored linens over her arm. Thank you. She's aware, but scared. I'm taking her out now. And what is she? Di passes the blankets to me before crossing her arms over her chest, as to trying to peer over my shoulder. I don't think she sees Shael, but if she did, she made no response. Elven girl, dragon spawned, though, or at least touched, and very feral. Having a clear path would make it a lot easier. She stifles a chortle at my request. Eston nods before turning back towards the waiting Eric. It usually does, she remarks. Arxton begins to relay my request to Eric as I return to the Dimulet store and the Golden Girl. Lose something? I asked, only vaguely concerned, and started repeating the mantra again. I am calm, she is calm. She pokes her head out again, clutching a small blue sphere in her hands. What's that? It looks like a rock, but smooth and exactly the size of her hand. It could be magical, even a weapon. She does not say anything, but looks at it and back at me a few times. I extend my hand, though she recoils immediately. Down on my knees, with the linen on my side, I instead attempt to coax her forward, but and thankfully she slips a bit closer, though somewhat slowly. Come here, I'll cover you up. They're soft. This seems to get her the rest of the way, giving the blankets a patting to make sure nothing was hidden in them. Giving her some semblance of modesty turned out to be surprisingly easy. One of the sheets of linen was more than capable of being fashioned into a toga. Wrapping it around wrapping around her with the corners joined over her shoulder, and she was reasonably cooperative with the process once I bribed her with another scrap of jerky, though she was still quite jumpy and somewhat displeased at anything binding against her. I had a bit of rope on my own, enough for a belt around her waist, though it emphasized her malnourishment more than anything else. So, is that a memento to remember someone? I guess arbitrarily, at while dressing her in the makeshift garment, and she awards me an affirmation. Your parents? Her expression was ambivalent, her head rocking side to side as she breaks her silence again. Ma, ma, she says as I drape the blankets over her. My mama. Oh, I let the sheets down around her shoulders and look at her in the eye. Listen, I know you're scared. We're going to take you someplace safe, but you have to get into the carriage. It's going to be confining, though. You'll have these and other blankets. These will be the softest, but the others should be good padding. Some might call it a cage. I'm going to call it your covert chariot. If you trust me, it's going to carry you to safety. Promise. No tricks. No tricks. She nodded, speaking with a mild clarity before her eyes shot to the door and her eyebrows knit curiously. Then she pointed once, then twice with impatience, and I concluded that she must be asking something else, only guessing that it could be an inquiry about the others. I won't let them play tricks either. Don't worry. Now let's get you wrapped up so no one sneaks any peeks. She snorts a small laugh and grins at me as I do all the work of shrouding her. Standing, I feel a sudden warm vice-like grip on my forearm and make a startled sound as it feels like it's dragging me down, but Shail is just trying to slow me, then releases the wrist at any sight of potential pain. It's okay. I was just startled. How about you walk in front of me and behind my friend Di? Thankfully she was okay with this, and simply clutches the blankets tight while I walk behind her, hands on her shoulders, though the crouch halls of the field elf burrow into the wilder open air of the night. Eric was playing the huckster to the crowd with a briefing of how it was all handled and taken care of. We're professionals, of course, so we have to get paid. So do make sure to submit your AARs promptly, or we may have to put the monster back. Crickets in the field mocked him without reservation, a moment far funnier for me than that tired relic of a joke that Guy told every single time. Anyway, just a bit of humor, but make sure to get them sent to the local magistrate. About the after-incident report, the oldest of the crowd says over a quiet group of his kith and kin. What do we say it was? That would be his question, wouldn't it? I shut the door to our catch coach, thick and wooden, once Shail is in with all the blankets, inkets, and lock it, before handing the key to Di. It was essentially a reinforced cube of oak, iron-edged, warded against magic, and enchanted against physical damage inside and out. It was quite the load, 2 cubic centimeters of oak and iron, an axle and seat, so they were fortunate to have 4 basalt horses, tireless, sturdy, requiring no feed, and controlled by a thought rather than reins or whip. The animated stone animals were as invaluable as they were expensive, but the catch coach was a necessity. I can only imagine trying to keep Shael or a leaf tiger I'd have a simple cage as opposed to the alternative. Niana, Eric said to me in a quiet voice, heard of Felicien yet? Fill you in? I told Di already, she's dragon spawn. Leave it at that. I know it wouldn't go over well. You can stir up questions. I can't help that. If I tell him, he'll know. But the Ad Elder was lurking outside and add more and add in a more thorough report with that additional context. Elder, I say, stepping past Eric, the one who caused this, she was quite apologetic. I promise that we will reimburse you for the blankets. It's fine. We were spares. I offered pillows, but I didn't know what it was all for, he says, cracking a chuckle as he fixed the clothing he'd clearly thrown on in the dark, sleeping garments under robes, hopes, and slippers. It's late. Thank you for your services, and safe travels. I nod, reassuring him it's no trouble, but he stops before turning away. Oh, just so you know, I forgive her. If she is remorseful, anyway. No one was hurt, not really, but I imagine others might be quite cross at this. He left as we departed, the others, Di and Eric and Matt, riding alongside me and Leanne, and driving the coach. She did the work, what little there was, but I can't help glancing back at the cube. I told them where our cargo was. They thought it was a joke at first, then got quiet as Di confirmed what I'd said. It was rare to find in the region, so close to fairy territory, where the verdict was to kill Dragonkin when discovered. Less common still to find one of the sapient races, and least of all to find a feral girl of any origin, much less that one. But no one had a precise idea of what to do, or even how to go about it. We catch beasts, though. Hand it to the thief catchers, or whoever deals with vandals, Lena shouts in my ear, and I shush her hastily while trying to recollect my calm. As an empath, it's possible to express this outward, pollute the thoughts of others. The one other in my vicinity needs to be peaceful. Quiet, lass, quiet. It's night and folks are trying to sleep not far off, Eric says in his normal level way as he and Di begin smoking up ahead, having affirmed a favorable wind and directed away from the cube wranglers. Besides all that, the job is done already. We just need to think of where she'll sleep. But I doubt she could be much trouble. How little did we know.
Famous last words, those.
Oh, nice.
Does anyone want to go?
Okay, so looking at it, I saw I like the overall story. I think it's good. I think that one issue is that you switch tenses a lot.
I find I have trouble with that too, so don't feel too bad about it.
Yeah,
Even professionals like you have to also work at it, right, Doug? Always a work in progress.
If you're having trouble with tenses, the easiest way is to always write present, unless you're intentionally trying to change tense.
I thought fiction was generally past tense normally. I've never really heard of anybody suggesting present tense.
Maybe I write too many what's it called? Non-fiction stuff. Too much non-fiction stuff. God, I can't talk.
Yeah, there were a couple times where I had to kind of change the word choice
I noticed that.
Oh. So, because, like, sometimes I was like, where it was kind of just like, it just kind of felt like it was slightly awkward. Especially for me, where, like, I'm reading it and I'm just like, oh, that's a little bit awkward. But I think that, like, I'll be able to give you some more specific feedback at another time, since I think most of it's like the characterization is good, the overall story is good. It's just little bits of, like, tightening up and smoothing out that needs some
Especially
work.
before they get into the house, the tone is very good. I mean, the tone kind of switches, but it was extremely atmospheric leading up to the house. It was spooky. Did do criticism. So when you were talking about the beast, you wrote that the beast has taken refuge in. Technically, you're not supposed to end a sentence with a preposition, so instead you would write in which the beast had taken refuge.
Yeah. But overall, I think this is a good start. It needs some smoothing out, but I think that the nice thing is you're just kind of in the stages of putting it out. So I think you should be fine. Yeah.
All right, is it my turn in the Thunderdome?
Yep. Yes, it is indeed your turn.
You mind popping up that image I sent you?
Yeah, let me pull up, and I will. It'll take me a minute since my Discord's loading up, since I didn't want to crash in the middle of reading.
Yeah. So while he's doing that, what I'll be reading is not really writing per se. It's more so just details and setup for a zombie module in an RPG on which I'm working. Writing the system from the ground up, but I need to have modules to go along with it. So this one is zombies.
Okay. Let me open original. And I'll share my screen. Okay.
All right, so this is where this one takes place, or at least where it starts. So I will start at the beginning. Oh, those are my notes. Those are not what I'm reading. All right, so zombie campaign number 1, walkers, as opposed to rage zombies. So you wake up on a ghost ship, sealed in a room. The crew is dead, zombified, etc. You are hooked up to an IV. Details. The ship was a quote-unquote small medical class naval support ship, Mercy class, that was studying the party's immunity. A medical test rendered the party unconscious with only scattered memories of what happened. Note, this allows the players to decide how much memory of the past they want, but limits their memory of the outbreak to details that they wish to use for character development. The party has defecated and urinated themselves in the hospital beds and have developed light bed sores. If there's a doctor in the group, they can surmise that they've been out of commission for 24 to 48 hours. Among the first actions the players would likely take is washing themselves and finding new clothes. There are 4 parallel connected medical observation rooms. That would be the top image. Hang on, let me switch over. Oops. Would be the top image there, kind of at the. It's hard to describe, at the base before the engine block. Behind. Can't see. Let me make this full screen. Top one. Behind 140 and 143. Anyway, there are 4 parallel connected medical observation rooms, all of which are observed by mirrors or by mirrored glass and cameras by another room, which the party is not aware. Each room has 4 hospital beds, each of which having been occupied. Non-party members are dead, each shot in the head. Party members have IVs in their arms. The ship is parked 800 meters out to sea in a harbor, and there are 3 other hospital ships, 2 of which have been scuttled. One is attempted to be scuttled, but is partially above water. Most, if not all, the boats in the harbor are gone or severely damaged. Utility boats of the medical ship are gone, but some lifeboats remain. There is a room with piles of dead bodies that have been burned. Hopefully they were zombies. The bottom deck is a bloodbath, and the second floor isn't much better. Mystery. Where are we, and why are we here? Why can't we remember things? What happened to the rest of the ship? How long have we been here, and how long has the ship been quote-unquote abandoned? Furthermore, why are we hooked up to IVs? Moreover, why were we hooked up to IVs where the other patients have been shot? Information given to the players. The survivors wake up from a sleep with the immense disorientation and splitting headaches. They can't tell how long they've been unconscious, but their rest was filled with nightmares of ghouls and gunfire. Each patient controlled by a player is hooked up to an IV. The others have been shot in the head. There are 2 doctors in 2 of the surgical rooms. There are 2 dead doctors in 2 of the surgical rooms. There are also 2 dead soldiers, 1 dead doctor, and 1 dead officer in the nearby observation room. In 1 medical room, the doctors were shot execution style, 1 shot to the back of the head. In the other, 1 was shot repeatedly in the chest, then the head. The other was shot in the back repeatedly before being shot in the head. Some of the bullets went all the way through and punctured the door through which it seemed he was trying to escape into the neighboring medical room. In the execution room, there are 2 9mm casings on the ground. In the other, a mixture of 9mm and 5.56 X45 casings with scattered bullet holes that seem to match. There are signs of struggle in the observation room, bodies scattered throughout. The 2 soldiers appear to have been shot instantly, whereas the doctor and officer seem to have scuffled with someone, leaving the room in disarray. Next to a large overturned table lies a bloody, damaged microscope, and the officer having had his head caved in with a blunt instrument. Just outside the most starboard medical room, there is a dead man in a military uniform. His sidearm is missing from its holster, and he is surrounded by 5.56 and 9mm casings. Though he was wearing a helmet, the upper left quarter of his head is missing. Out of the starboard windows, the shore can be seen, along with the scuttled medical ships and smoke rising from various parts of the city. One of the medical ships is only partially scuttled, and half of it remains above the water. I already wrote this part, but whatever, I'll repeat it because it's a different section. The bottom deck is a bloodbath, and the second floor isn't much better. The outbreak must have... this is a conclusion that I wouldn't tell the players, but the outbreak started on the second deck during the night and corrupted dozens before the crew knew what was going on. By the time it did, the pathways from the bottom floor were blocked, and the confusion, causing confusion, distrust, and friendly fire. Dozens of people barricaded themselves on the bottom deck and are starving. On the bottom deck is a room filled with charges intended to scuttle the ship. The detonator seems to have failed, and the rest can be reset. One of the surviving parties on the bottom deck was responsible for scuttling the ship, and still intends to. Now, I don't always tell the players immediately, but I want to have an answer for just about everything. So these are potential reasons, and I could cater it to the players, but the basics are basic reasons for why they wanted to scuttle the ship was mercy killing, burying the evidence for another entity, destroying evidence due to the unethical natures of experiments here. I didn't get to that, but I'll get to that in a sec. I guess I should have organized this slightly better. To maintain the dignity of the military, to prevent people from attempting to continue the research, and/or religious reasons. A question I need to answer is, was he a member of the crew, or did he sneak his way aboard in a disguise? Hooks for the players. Where are we? How did we get here? And why can we only remember bits and pieces of the past month and even less of the past few days? What the fuck happened on the ship? Is it any better on land? Even if it isn't, can we afford to stay here? Why were the other ships scuttled and this one wasn't? Something has torn its way through the hull of the ship on the second floor and appears to have scaled aside. What is it? Why is it? And is it still here? Partially scuttled ship in the bay may be empty of life and have unscavenged resources. Consternation is that you don't know and it might be dangerous. Information will be delivered via partially alive people, perhaps medical logs, environmental details, supplies, and soldiers' journals. So what I mean by supplies is, for example, an easy example would be that you can tell that it was a military ship based on the equipment there, and you can tell that it was a medical ship based on the amount of, based on the layout of the ship and the fact that there's like a pharmacy and medical rooms nearby. To do as a design rule, the more risk involved in getting the resource, the better it should be. Trying to keep the, but the DMs should try to keep the reward consumable. Don't permanently arm the party with incredible gear. Recommendation is that the biggest payoff is medicine. A note that I have in here is something that I find funny is the idea of Chekhov's machine gun, and it's particularly important to consider when one is designing a game because, or even when you're writing a regular story. So Chekhov's gun is where if Chekhov has a gun in Act 1, he better fire it by Act 2. But if the Chekhov's machine gun would be more along the lines if Chekhov has a if there exists a machine gun in the story, Chekhov better have it just before he needs it, as opposed to earlier. Most likely punishments / contingencies if the survivors make a loud noise and or create a diversion for the zombies is that they get stuck in a room. Zombie details. Everyone has the infection inside them, but death allows it to take over the body. Non-immune people's bodies detect the disease and the immune system destroys itself. Zombie bite has E. coli in it, so even if you're immune, the E. coli is a different matter. Certain genes mutate once the virus takes over the body. Usually the body deforms to the point where the zombie is incapacitated. Bones corkscrew and shatter, muscles contort and separate themselves from the bone. Internal organs melt. However, some zombies survive, and even more still are imbued with special properties like smokers and hunters from Left 4 Dead, for example. And I don't know if I should share the possible explanations for what happened, at least with regards to what happened to them and why they have IVs and whatnot, but I do have at least 2 options. And the central regional conflict for the first module is that there are 2 primary military factions with contrasting ideologies who are at war with each other over how they intend to stop the infection and or help people. There are disparate factions within the surrounding areas, including military, splinters, colonies, and lone survivors, etc. The primary conflict is that the more officer-oriented element of the military is willing to sacrifice civilians in order to find a cure, whereas the other largest splinter is not, and that's where the first mutiny occurred there. And that is all I have, aside from the explanation for how the survivors got there and what happened to all the dead people immediately next to them.
Nice.
I'm not particularly fond of zombies myself, but that's certainly a well put together module.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the biggest element of my game is that every single other RPG has terrible, terrible combat systems, in my opinion. So, and mine is like a modern, realistic sort of thing. So, what better way to implement that than against Zombambos? Or at least to include it.
Seems like a good option.
I like the description of just how terrible the bite would be with the E. coli and the possibility of different zombies like the hunters.
Yeah, that sent chills down my spine. Very well done.
Gracias.
So do you have any idea for any boss zombies, or is this just going to be moot chords with occasional specialists?
Any what zombies?
Boss zombies.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you could put in whatever you want. I mean, the part of the idea of my system is that it's highly modular, and if you want to add anything, the system and the supporting rules and app that aids with inventory and with combat allow you to do so. Like, you can upload your own databases and whatnot to it, so that, like, for example, if you wanted to, like, say someone wanted to add like 800 guns to the gun list, all you would have to do is get an Excel file, copy paste them with the correctly formatted columns, and then just add them to the gun list.
Yeah, well, you could theoretically throw as many guns in there as you want.
Yeah, but that's just an
stopping
example.
point.
Well, no, you can add the ammo as well. There's different CSVs for each of those that allow players and modders to add whatever they want with very little difficulty.
So it's not like the players are going to be finding tons and tons and tons and tons and tons of empty AR-15s or something.
Yeah, but it depends upon the campaign, though. Not all of them are going to be zombie campaigns. This is just one example.
The comments make a really good point. Maybe there could be where they fall into the water and something gets them there.
Well, like there's
these zombie sharks.
Zombie sharks.
Dragon.
I don't know if I would make zombie sharks. I would probably make like a sea creature or something, because a zombie shark isn't going to be much scarier than a regular shark, but B, there's already the presence of mutation.
That's true.
But yeah, I mean, like, as far as boss zombies, yeah, I mean, I kind of breezed past it, but there is a gigantic hole in the wall, like, and it's like solid metal, so like something tore a hole in the metal and then used its fingers to climb up the side of a entirely metal ship. So that's going to be, I don't know where I'm going to put that thing, but it might be on one of the ships, or it might be in the city. Who knows?
Yeah, you mentioned something about the city. So the city's messed up too?
Oh yeah, that's why these things were parked out to sea.
So is it like anchored in, or is it going somewhere?
This takes about. Wait, sorry. What's the question?
So is the ship anchored in, or is it going somewhere?
No, it's anchored. I imagine it could move, or maybe I'll have to cripple it. I don't know, but because I don't know if I want to give the players a ship right away. But it is full of zombies, so that's also another thing. This takes place about a month after the start, by the way. I don't know if I mentioned that.
The start of the outbreak, whatever it is.
Correct.
Did you take any inspiration from The Last of Us?
I actually haven't played The Last of Us yet. I've never had a Sony product to play it.
Well, I ask because those are fungus zombies.
Right. I don't know what exactly I'm going to make them. I don't think I made these fungus zombies, but I would definitely add into the rulebook fungus zombies.
So I had an idea. I've been really into this anime called School Live. It's like a living club where the girls discover there's a zombie outbreak. But reading into the manga, you discover that the teachers and all of the adults knew about it beforehand, and it was actually a conspiracy breeding ground in the school, but the students didn't know. Is there going to be some type of conspiracy beforehand, like someone spread the virus?
I have no clue yet. This is just a means. All I've written for this module, so I have like a 40-page document for a different one that's going to be a lot more complicated. This one's going to be kind of more of a simple. I don't want to use the word fun, but like less political intrigue in this one. So, I mean, that could be good backstory, but I have not put in enough detail into this one yet to know that. All right, if there's nothing left, I will cede my time to done.
Alrighty. Let me see. I got 20 minutes, so I think I'll just read like a short section. It's actually of a book that I've been kind of I worked on a while ago, but I quite liked reading it a while back for another writing group, and I'm just going to read a little bit of it now since I wanted to read kind of a longer section, but I don't. But I only have 20 minutes before I need to head out, so I'll just give a shorter one. This one's going to be kind of more like focused on like humor, I guess. It's basically an anthropomorphic animal book, kind of in the style of Redwall. So I just thought that it would be fun to write something like that. Uniformed in the green and red jacket of the Swift Patrol, Corporal Derry Stagworthy, a tall, lanky hare with an appetite to match a starving wolf, munched casually on a large honey cake as he walked through Brockwood Forest. Jauntily, the dashing young hare drew his long rapier and slashed it playfully through the air as he continued to munch on his cake. Pride swelled in the young hare as he skipped along. He had been elected as the messenger to Greystone Abbey on the behalf of Badgerlord Mandoral Hightower and Badger Lady Rosanna Baradastron. Very soon they would be visiting the abbey on a state visit, so a messenger had to be picked. Derry had never in 100 seasons thought he'd be the one, but here he was. A message in his pack for the Lord Abbot. "Aha! On guard, you belly scum!" he yelled, battling a dozen imaginary enemies at once. "Take that, weasel! I got you there, Stoke Oatface! Why, you stink, you bloody fox! Here, have a taste of hair steel!" Once the invisible adversaries had fallen before his mock attacks, Derry executed an elaborate bow as if to a grand audience. Thank you. The cocky corporal blew kisses to non-existent hairmaids. "Oh, 'twas nothing," he said, putting on an air of false modesty. "'Twas but a trifle for a gallant of the Swift Patrol." He finished off the cake and pulled out another to gobble down as he continued on his way. Licking his paw to get the last of the sweet honey off his fingers, he spun his rapier, then sheathed the weapon with a flourish. As he strode through the woods, he recited to himself the speech that Lord Mandoral Hightower himself had given him to send to the fine Lord Abbot of Greystone Abbey. "Ah, Abbot Kayla," he intoned. "My name is Corporal—" "Shut up, rabbit!" a shrill voice from the underbrush close to him yelled. Just to be contrary, Derry continued, in spite of the voice. "Name's Corporal Derry Stagworthy of the Swift Patrol. Milord Mandoral and Milady Rosanna say, and fondest regards to your fine—" "I said shut up, rabbit!" The voice was even more shrill. Derry popped up. "Rabbit yourself, fatty chops!" he bellowed. doing his best imitation of a drill sergeant on parade ground. Well, if it isn't a big rabbit all by his lonesome. Another voice, this one significantly more sinister. In a flash, Derry Aaron drew his sword, shoveling the last of the honey cake into his mouth, cleaned his whiskers with his tongue, then set himself in a fighting stance. 4 ugly stoats slung towards him, tattoos and gold teeth augmenting their ragged apparel. They drew crude swords and clubs, grinning wickedly as they closed in on him. The sound of bushes ruffling announced whoever had been trying to warn him dashing away. "Steady on, chaps," Derry remarked warningly, pointing his sword toward the speaker. "Should have listened to the bally voice. You don't want to tussle with a hare from the Swift Patrol, now do you?" "We're pretty hungry, Rabbit," the lead stoat remarked, poking his sword toward Derry's chest. "You give us your food and your sword, we'll let you go. Just toss us the pack. No taking anything out now. The message for the Lord Abbot was in the pack. You couldn't let them have that." Breathing in and out rapidly, Derry looked around. Come on, this is beneath everyone in this forest." He trailed off, unable to really finish the sentence in a way that was sufficiently impressive. "You talk fancy, Big Rabbit." "I am a blooming hare!" Derry roared indignantly. "I am not a bloody rabbit! Educate yourself, you vermin!" "Get him, lads," the lead stoat remarked, motioning to his friends. "You have not taken into account a number of things, stouty boy." Derry turned on his heel. "One of them is that I am faster than you." He took off at a run, footpads slamming against the ground, propelling him forward. "Catch me if you—" Thud. Derry ran into what felt like a stone wall and bounced backward, landing square on his behind. "Bally inconvenient." He looked up. Oh. The biggest creature he had ever seen looked down at him, brown fur sheathing an enormous, bulky animal with a stubby snout. The massive animal swished a long, bushy tail, thick as a squirrel's, then began scraping long, sharp claws against each other as he unslung a massive longbow from his back and set it aside. Oh. Derry's throat seized up as the massive creature leaned down, setting a massive spear next to his bow. The main thing was the sight of the creature's teeth. They were not blunt like a badger's. They were serrated predator teeth, designed to shred through flesh like paper. "Hello, neighbor," the creature said quietly, reaching down and taking Derry by the shoulders and helping him to his feet. Delicately, he brushed Derry's uniform off. "What are you running to in such a hurry?" Derry silently pointed behind him. "Eek," he said. The creature chuckled. "Interesting. I've never heard of eek before." "Stoats!" Derry squeaked. "Chasing me! Form a scoff!" As if simply mentioning them had summoned them, the stoat bandits rushed through the trees, weapons out. They had much the same reaction as Derry had, though they stood stock still, staring at the massive creature. Sighing, the gargantuan creature rolled his eyes and licked his lips. "What?" he asked, picking up his spear, only to stick it tip up into the forest ground. "You never seen a wolverine before?" "That's a big rabbit," the stoat leader pointed at Derry. "Hare!" Derry yelled indignantly. "Not big rabbit!" "What did he do?" the wolverine asked, slowly baring his teeth at the stoats in what might be called a smile, but there were one too many sharp fangs in that expression. "We want his food," one of the stoats remarked. "Do you?" The wolverine's paw enveloped Derry's head, gently picked him up, then put him to the side. "What if I say that you can't have him?" He cracked his knuckles suggestively, then spread his paws and unsheathed his claws. Derry shivered. He did not want to see what would happen to the beast that was on the receiving end of those claws. "Rush him!" the stoat yelled hoarsely, raising his crude sword and charging forward. Instead of rushing forward, the other stoats remained where they were, staring in fear at the creature as their leader stupidly charged forward. Almost contemptuously, the wolverine grabbed the stoat by the front of his ratty tunic and lifted him into the air as if he weighed no more than a rag doll. Derry felt more than heard the wolverine suck a massive breath into his cavernous chest. The beast roared directly into the stoat's face, exhaling that breath so powerfully that the smaller creature's fur fluttered. Casually, the huge beast dropped his victim onto the ground and glanced toward the quivering stoats. "Any beast want to try their luck?" They ran. Fast. Their leader, still looking shaken, stumbled after them. He was so concerned with keeping his eyes on the wolverine that he bumped into several trees in his desperate bid to escape. "Blooming marvelous!" Derry's ears quivered. "I've never seen a beast shoo vermin off like that, sirrah. By the last time I saw any beast polish off anything that quick was when Sergeant Crumshaw demolished a chocolate cake at mess." Chuckling, the wolverine picked up his barbed spear and rested against his shoulder. "Thank you, neighbor," he remarked, paws scraping the ground as he picked up his bow. "That was quite fun, actually. The scum around here have no backbone, so seeing them off is quite easy." "It's me who should be thanking you, sirrah." Derry swept a bow and proffered his paw. "Corporal Darren Stagworthy, or Darren to me mates." The wolverine extended his own paw. Derry felt a twinge of apprehension as the creature's palm completely swallowed his. "Ashkar Longtooth," he said. He said coolly, "but you can call me Ash." Casually, he reached into Darren's pack and took a piece of bread out. "Do you mind if I have some?" Derry waved dismissively. "What's mine is yours," he said gallantly. "Thanks." Ash essentially inhaled the loaf in one bite and munched it down contentedly. Derry couldn't control his envious gape at the abrupt scoff he'd just witnessed. "By the left," he remarked, "never seen a scoff like that. I'd love to get into a scoffing match with you, sir." "Perhaps." Ash slung his bow across his chest. "Maybe we'll run into each other again." "Where are you going?" Derry trotted next to the massive beast as he started walking away. "Don't really know," Ash remarked. "I'm just wandering through this forest, doing what good I can. I don't have a destination that I'm working toward." "Well, if you got nowhere to go, then why don't you come with me?" Derry offered, pointing to the east. "I'm heading toward a place called Greystone Abbey. There's good food, shelter, kind creatures. You might like it." Ash licked his fangs thoughtfully. "I could, and I will admit that sleeping under the stars wears thin after several months." He glanced down at the hare. "Besides, I could keep you out of trouble. You got a deal, Derry. What direction are we heading?" "Follow me, sir," Derry remarked, long ears quivering in the breeze. "On to Greystone." With that pronouncement, he broke out into an old marching ditty. "We're on the march, here we go, left, right, 1, 2, swift the word, sharp's the action, you at the back, get some traction speed, or you'll be left behind. Pick up the pace, you bally slugs, when we bed, you'll get to mug. Scoff denied, don't you whine, we'll be drinking elderberry wine. Now we're here, break out the tart, sweet plums, apple pie, oh my, I'll be stuffed like a duck, here I come, sir, for tonight." The end.
It's a hell of a note to leave it on.
Yes, it
That was
is.
not a cute song.
What movie? I couldn't quite hear you.
I said that was quite a cute song.
Oh, thank you.
We've got 6 minutes left. Are you sure you don't want to keep singing?
Well, I guess I could sing Bear and the Maiden Fair. That's. But yeah, that's yeah. What'd you? I hope that was entertaining.
It was quite entertaining, actually.
I was thinking the same.
Nice.
So
I definitely got the red wall feel.
Yeah. Yeah, I probably need to change the names like a lot in order to avoid comparison.
They work as placeholders.
Yeah.
if you're interested in that kind of story, I can send you a link to an anime I really loved that had a mix of like little fairy creatures and badgers and different animals living together.
Oh, okay, cool. Well, it's mostly like the names of like Abbey and Greystone Abbey. That's very Redwall Abbey. Baradastron kind of works okay, I think. Maybe changing a few of the names, like Mandoral, Hightower, or stuff like that. But for now, like this is kind of the anthropomorphic medieval animal book that I wanted to write. I haven't finished it, but I'm hoping to work on it once I get more of my stuff finished.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it seems as though Nick Brown, Man of Renown, wants me to sing The Bear and the Maiden Fair. So I guess I could do that to close us off.
Good luck.
Let me see. I'm glad that my voice doesn't kill people, thankfully.
Did you take inspiration from Shrek too? Because
No,
according to Nick Brown,
I did not actually. I just thought it would be funny if there was just this big guy who just shoos away a bunch of vermin. I just thought that would be amusing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Alrighty. It should be pulling up now. Yeah. But yeah, I just came up with that marching ditty like on my own. I don't know how good it was, like in terms of
I was laughing.
Probably easier.
I don't know, but I've been told the furry march is really bold sound.
It's probably easier to get away with a marching ditty in text rather than like on film or play or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
The suspenseful scene went through. Dun dun dun.
Yeah. Okay. Alrighty. The Bear and the Maiden Fair, sung by Dunn. And apparently the puns will never be done. Yeah. Thanks. Thank you, Charles Calkins. I appreciate that. Dr. Crow, you got oughta slow it down. Yeah.
The puns are just too easy.
Yeah. A bear there was, a bear, all black and brown and covered in hair. 3 boys, a goat, and a dancing bear. They danced and spun right to the fair. Oh, sweet she was, and pure and fair. The maid with honey up in her hair. He smelled her on the summer air. The maid with honey up in her hair. From there to here, from here to there, all black and brown and covered with hair. He smelled that girl on the summer air. The bear, and the maiden fair. Oh, I'm a maid, I'm pure and fair. I'll never dance with a hairy bear. I call the night, but you're a bear, all black and brown and covered with hair. He lifted her high in the air. He sniffed and roared and smelt her there. She kicked and wailed, the maid so fair, but he licked the honey from her hair. From there to here, from here to there, all black and brown and covered with hair. He smelled that girl on the summer air. The bear, and the maiden fair. The bear, and the maiden fair. The bear, she sighed and squealed and kicked the air, and then she sang, my bear, so fair. And off they went into the summer air, the bear, and the maiden fair. From there to here, from here to there, all black and brown and covered with hair. He smelled that girl on the summer air. The bear, and the maiden fair. The bear, and the maiden fair. And the bear, the maiden fair, and the bear. The bear. Whew.
I wonder if soldiers sing about anything other than sex when they're marching.
Well, I don't know, but I've been told.
I guess so.
I've heard they'll sing about a girl worth fighting for.
Isn't that really not about that?
Yeah, I feel like that's about sex too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it probably is. Okay, well, this has been a fun stream. Thank you very much. I've appreciated having my guests. I will definitely put Semantic Dragon's little bit of his story in the description below. Thank you all very much for your time. I have very much appreciated it.
Thank you for having us, as always.
And well done, everyone. Alrighty. And thank you all for coming. I very much appreciated it. And we will say bye.
Bye, guys. See you